I thought it'd be more interesting to come outside, lean against a log and talk about my D3200 than doing it at home on an office desk. All the video you've seen up to now has been filmed, the B-roll on this little D3200 using the 35mm f1.8G lens. Obviously the camera only does up to 1080-30, but for me that's fine. It was pretty standard for a 10-year-old camera. So let's get into this camera and talk about it a bit more. So what we have here is my Nikon D3200. These cameras were introduced in April of 2012, so it's 10 years old now, just slipping into 11 years old. I've had this camera for about 9 years. You can pick them up now on eBay body only for about £120. With the 18 to 55 kit lens you can pick them up for between 175 and 225 at a quick look from this morning. So a pretty cheap camera all round, especially for one of that age with 24 megapixels. So the lens that lives on this camera is my 35mm f1.8G. You can pick these up second hand in really good condition for about £80 on eBay. So this is the 18 to 55 kit lens that came with my camera when I purchased it. It's probably a good idea to buy this lens with the camera if you can. It's not the most amazing lens in the world, but it'll get you going. I think you can pick these lenses up on eBay for about £60 for one that's probably hardly ever been used. And then next up is the 55 to 200. I think it's an f4 to f5.6, which actually isn't too bad for a lens of this type. Again, second hand on eBay, probably about £120 is what you want to pay for one of these. Again, not the best lens in the world, but equally not too bad. It will get you going. And that is probably the only three lenses you'll need for a Nikon D3200. So on the left hand side of the camera you do have a mic input, USB. It's got a micro HDMI output, and it's also got, I believe, I've never used it, I've never even looked at it, a port for GPS. On the back of the camera you've got the 3-inch screen. It's fixed, it doesn't swivel, it's not a touch screen. Again, pretty standard for a camera of this age. All the controls are pretty obvious, evenly laid out in a nice way. Ergonomically it's a nice camera to use. On the top of the camera you've got a hot shoe. The camera's got a usable pop-up flash, although I never use it. And obviously everything you'd expect to find on the mode dial. It just takes a simple SD card, which is nice. And then on the bottom you've got battery door, and it takes a battery that's common across a lot of Nikons, so they're easy to get hold of. Obviously at this price point the camera isn't weather sealed, but like all Nikons they're a lot tougher than you think they're going to be. The build quality is very good. I've used this camera a lot in the rain and really bad weather. All I do after I've used it is just wipe it over with a dry cloth and leave it somewhere warmish to dry off. I've never had a problem with it, and I don't ever expect to. Obviously I don't use the camera that much anymore. It's sort of become the property of my girlfriend, who uses it to take photographs of flowers and bees and things like that, and then turns those photographs into watercolour paintings. So the camera's going to carry on giving good service for years to come, I expect, in her hands. So that's a very brief look at the Nikon D3200 in 2022-2023. if you can't take a good photograph with this camera, you're not going to take a good photograph with an even more expensive modern camera. This is a fantastic camera to learn your trade with, to grow with, and then when you do eventually outgrow it, just upgrade to whatever you fancy at the time, whether that be a DSLR further up in the Nikon range or switching to mirrorless. Yeah, it's not much more to say about this camera really. It's a perfect camera for if you're on a really tight budget. The thing that swings it is a 24 megapixel camera, and in my opinion I think it does a really nice 1080p video. So I'm going to post up some photographs that I've taken with this camera over the years that I've used it, just to show you the sort of image quality you can expect. Obviously we've seen the B-roll at the beginning of this video. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.